Hello everyone, welcome to For All Nerds. I'm Uncolored Page, and today we have a very special guest. He's worked at Google, he's written for Hard Drive, and now him and the team at Moving Pieces are releasing a game on Apple Arcade called Dodo Peak. Please welcome Kyle Irv.
Hey, thanks a lot, Paige. So yeah, I'm Kyle. I'm a comedian, writer, and programmer here in New York City. I've been doing a lot of different things over the years, and I recently made a turn into game development, sort of a career change, and I'm just really excited to talk about all the projects I'm doing.
Yeah, you do a lot of things. I was I was telling my girlfriend earlier that who I was interviewing. I said Kyle. He's been working at Google. He's been writing. She was like, yeah, he does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure it out. That's just been like the last 5 years. It's like just overcommit. Maybe it'll all work out.
Yeah. But what was it like working at Google?
Right. So there's so many ways to answer that question. So for people's background, I'm like a pretty like typical like systems-y engineer kind of person. Like I went to college. I have a computer science degree. And so for the last like 2.5 years until this summer, I had a job at Google. It was like my second job. Before that, I was at a database company called MongoDB. What I was doing at Google is I worked on our like hiring systems, which is a really like neat area. Google does all their own like internal systems for tracking like the interview process and who they're gonna like hire for jobs, and it's a giant company. And like so something like that has a lot of impact. And so that part was neat. In terms of like day to day, it's like a really good job. It's a really good day job. It's like a very safe, secure job to have, being a programmer at Google.
Yeah. And for your second job, that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just luck. I am like decent. I do feel like the whole time I was there, I always felt like I was the stupidest person in the room, but. I think the trick is 90% of the people that work there feel the same way. So like, it works out. It's like it was a great job to have while doing other projects, because unlike the startup I was working at beforehand, like I could kind of focus on more creative work in my downtime.
You said you're a comedian. You were like doing like shows in the in your off time, maybe?
Yeah. So I kind of skipped over that part, but yeah, the last 5 years I've also been just trying to make it make it is like maybe the wrong word. I feel like it's the 1960s or something. He's gonna make it. I'm just trying to like do comedy, do more creative work. I've been like doing comedy writing just as long as I've been doing programming. But one of those things is a lot easier to get like a paying job doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was doing that whole time. I was doing like stand-up, a lot of sketch like writing. I was on this like house team thing at the People's Improv Theater. So like going from work to a lot of comedy meetings. And like Google's a great place if you want to do that. I know a few people who have like made that work.
That's like that's so like such a like double life kind of thing. You're working at like a very serious kind of like tech place, and you're also doing comedy on the side.
It is a lot. I was tired all the time. I still am, but for like different reasons. But like it was like it was tough to toe the line. The job I had beforehand, I was much more open about all the like creative work I was doing.
Yeah.
But at Google, just because it's a little more corporate, I always felt like I brought it up, like I wouldn't like lie to people about what I was doing, but I never invited people to shows until sort of like the very end.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I know other people in comedy who, you know, they're more open with like they're pursuing like acting or whatever, and so they have an office job, and they've been like told like they were basically like passed up for promotions and stuff like that, because it's like, oh well, clearly you don't care about this.
Yeah.
And it's like they probably care about it as much as anyone else working at some like mail order like monthly box company, but like I just didn't want to put myself in that position.
Yeah, because they see, as soon as they see you as disposable, they're gonna treat you like you're disposable at most companies.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, it's interesting you put it that way. I definitely did feel disposable at Google much more than like other jobs I had. Sort of regardless, like I kind of became involved like in the labor movement during my time there. Because just like working at a company that big, you realize how much of a cog you are.
Yeah.
And you're a very privileged cog. Like I don't want to undersell that. As far as like office jobs go, you do get like compensated very well, but it's like I never felt like I was in a position to, I'm not gonna like work this weekend to make Larry Page another $1 billion or whatever. So like that kind of digs into like my time there. I was definitely feeling like, again, very, very privileged position to even like have the savings to even think about like I should just quit and like do something more creative or something like that. But it just felt, it was kind of a bummer working for this large company that was like constantly in the news doing like embarrassing things.
Yeah. Like the biggest company in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people that are like going through like similar situations like that are like working at a corporate job or like any kind of job but are pursuing like creative things in the future?
Yeah. I first, to answer this question, I feel like I should go a little through like all of the things I was very lucky with. Like you kind of have to work really hard, you have to be lucky, or you have to like find the right opportunity. So like the one great thing that I have that a lot of my other artist friends don't is like I'm a programmer, and so that's like a very in-demand skill right now. And so you have a much bigger parachute if you want to try something because of that. I wouldn't necessarily say like my advice to someone is like become a programmer. That's definitely worked for a few people I know.
Yeah.
But like that is what worked for me. I think the other thing is just like you have to work on like outside stuff every day and like develop a really good habit of like keeping your other projects going. But you also, and this is what I really struggled with, is like don't work yourself miserable. Like you have to also take care of you and acknowledge that you can't do everything every day. Like your relationships will suffer, your mental health will suffer. You just gotta, it's a balancing act that I'm still trying to nail down. But that would actually be my biggest advice, is just like do small things every day. Don't do like don't go to work and then work all night on your passion project and do that every single day. You will burn out. I've seen it happen a million times.
Yeah, that's a dangerous game. But were you writing for Hard Drive while you were at Google?
Yeah, I was. I think I was basically at Google for the whole birth of that website. Which was an interesting position, like a conflict of interest thing. There were like certain things I wanted to joke about that I was like, I could get fired for this. Like, I probably not, but like, it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't like write anything about YouTube because I don't want to get called into a weird HR meeting.
Why did you write this parody article about us not paying YouTubers?
Yeah, honestly, basically, it was a very surreal thing to be working at the place that like other people in the group would be like pitching stories about and be like, okay, like I get why this is funny. I can tell you 3 reasons why it's like inaccurate, but you should run it. I'm not going to stop you. First of all, are people like familiar with Hard Drive? I don't want to like assume that.
Yeah, I feel like it's grown. I feel like it's grown to a point where like it's like not national common knowledge, but very like a lot of people are in the know about it. Like Hard Drive has had.
If you're like
they have had some
like a gamer online, hopefully.
Usually. I feel like it's
been really cool like seeing that take off. And just to be clear, I'm not like on staff there.
You are a contributor, right?
I'm a contributor, and I'll get to this more later. I'm actually, starting a podcast with one of the editors there. That'll be coming out like later this fall. So like that's almost staff adjacent, but it's been really cool to see like that become just this thing attached to the Hard Times. It's just like a punk music satire site. So just watching it gain like 10,000 Twitter followers, it's like first day.
Yeah.
And just like watching that grow has been really cool.
Yeah, and you wrote some of the articles that have been some of the biggest for Hard Drive as well, like such as the Sekiro should respect its players and add big anime titties. Yeah, some of these articles are really, really great. The headlines are so like great. I'm voting for Bernie Sanders unless another candidate proves they have more swords than him.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked that one. That one got a lot of traction recently. A lot of people didn't realize that was like true the first time, and then I feel like a couple months ago it broke. I think when Ross Perot died, like Bernie Sanders has a sword from Ross Perot. And like I was like, yeah, I was on that beat 2 years ago, dude.
You wrote some of the I would say some of the best articles for this website, honestly. Like
I thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Like the awesome shirt ruined by band name and the visual gag of the shirt having love drinking pee on it.
Yeah, I love talking about these out loud because it just like underscores how really stupid and silly my sense of humor actually is. Like I feel like a lot of people, especially when they're like 20 and they're getting into comedy, they're like, I have like a voice. I'm gonna tell people how the world really is. I'm like a young George Carlin. And it's like, no, my jokes are like, this article is so hardcore. We wrote it with just the WASD keys. Like, just the absolute dumbest crap.
This is the next generation of comedy.
It's what we have now.
What is your process of writing these?
When I knew I was doing this interview, that's the thing I feel like I've thought about the most, and I have a few answers. So when it comes to specifically the kind of comedy that Hard Drive is, which is like parody news, first and foremost, like the headline is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Especially I'm just making the joke land, and this was true even in the Onion days, but it's like when like the 20 years that publication has been around, but it's even more true now in social media because like that's all people see.
Yeah.
So like you can write a article with a really great body and no one's going to see it if the headline isn't like going to drive you to read the rest of it. So having a good strong joke in the headline is like the most important thing. And there's two parts of that. One is like having a good idea and the other is like writing that idea well. Unfortunately, there's like no key to either. But I think what I found over the years, because I've been writing like satire for the web for like 4 years or something now. I think like the first thing is like generating ideas. You've probably heard this before from other like writers, but the best thing you can do is just get a lot of ideas. And like really just sit down with like a piece of paper or like a notebook and say like, I'm not getting up from this table until I come up with like 3 pages of ideas and like write down everything. Most of it's going to suck. Almost all of it's going to suck. If you get like 3 good things out of it, that's successful. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And then maybe one of those will get picked up. And like, if you do that every day, you're selling a headline every day. That's a huge output. So there's that. Partly it's just like brainstorming. There is like one tool that I think I developed that is like helped a couple of my friends that I use when I like really have writer's block. That trick is I call it Garfielding.
Okay.
What you do if you need to generate a lot of like joke ideas is go find like a really unfunny comic strip. It has to be an unfunny one, otherwise you're gonna end up like doing plagiarism. So if you go to like Garfield or like, I don't know, like Ziggy or something like that, and just click through and like figure out what the intended joke of like a comic strip is. Like, oh, Garfield like ate the lasagna, like think about like what the premise of that is and then come up with a funnier joke or like a funnier twist on like the premise of like overeating or the premise of like long lines or the premise of like ignoring your friend or something like that. And that can be like a tool of coming up with premises, but like not don't steal the punchline. Like, if don't pitch like a dozen articles about why lasagna is good. But like, that's something I've definitely used in like when I felt the most burned out to like great effects.
That sounds like a really, really good idea, actually.
It can work. I know people who have like gotten headlines that like from it, but
that's like genius. That's really good.
Yeah, thanks, man. I do wanna like. Now I'm worried. Like, I hope I don't get like sued by the Jim Davis estate.
Kyle Earp is stealing our jokes.
Yeah, basically. Actually, Jim Davis, if you're listening, I will write for Garfield for whatever the normal rate is.
I hope you write for Garfield. That would improve Garfield like tenfold. It's
like weirdly one of the dreams is like just getting pegged to do something like that would be, I don't know. And we can talk more about, we'll get to like the game we just put out, Dodo Peak, in a second, but like getting like the experience of being on this platform with like all these other like titles that I recognize from just even like the youngest I ever was, like something like Frogger. It's just like very, regardless of like quality, just like very heartwarming.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to write for Garfield. That's what this interview is about now.
Kyle Earp wants to write for Garfield. What are some of your like personal favorite hard drive articles that you've written?
I think you listed a couple up front. The ones that I'm like most proud of. So I will say one thing for anyone who hasn't done a lot of comedy. The things you love the most are rarely the ones that become the most popular. Like the one that has you dancing around the room that you think is like the perfect thing, rarely is going to have mass appeal because you have to live like your entire life and have your entire body of knowledge to understand why it's so good. So like my favorite ones are like, I love the WASD one because it's just like, it's an article written entirely with the letters W, A, S, and D.
I looked at that and there were like multiple paragraphs and I was like, how?
I mean, it's mostly gibberish.
Yeah.
I put an editor's note up top explaining that like there was punctuation added after the fact because I knew it's the internet and people are going to be like, that's a different key. And sure enough, there are people in the comment section like complaining about that and other people screenshotting in the editor's note. So it was a good call. Yeah, that one, I love that one because it's just so silly, but like it's such a, I don't know, it's very memorable. I don't know, it's just, I've never seen anything like it before, so I was really proud of that.
Yeah, that one is really good. Yeah, that one's really clever.
Thank you. Like this is one that I think, if for me, like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 was basically a religion. One of the most influential games and like got me to skateboard, got me really into ska music as a teen. So like the article, we interviewed skateboarding legend Darth Maul is like one of my favorites. For people who don't know, these Tony Hawk games typically have some like fictional like external characters in them that are like promoting other properties. So they've had like the mascot for Iron Maiden. They've had a couple Star Wars characters. In Tony Hawk 3, they have Darth Maul from The Phantom Menace. And this article is like a fake interview with this like Jedi who's a skateboarder. Sorry, not Jedi, Sith Lord.
We don't want people attacking you over that.
Yeah, please. I already know, like, now that I've said it, it's like, I actually don't know if he's a Sith Lord. It's like, but he's not a Jedi. I've already said too much. There goes all my credibility. I can tell you his stance is regular, not goofy. There's that one. There's man grinding out McDonald's shifts to afford cool new sword. I don't know. I like the ones combining, like, video games with real life, which, for what it's worth, actually don't usually do that well compared to ones that make more of a statement, either a political statement or a statement about like video games or a specific video game. But I'm just so tickled by like I've been that person. Like I want to buy a sword and just like putting that MMORPG context on there.
Yeah, the thought of like grinding out your entire month of McDonald's shifts for for a sword. Yeah, people do that in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I ended up not getting the sword when it came down to it. But that was my plan in high school for a while.
Bernie Sanders is grinding his campaign
to
afford more swords.
Yeah, that article, especially the one about Bernie Sanders. I don't think I usually the first person like editorial pieces are totally fictionalized. I do want to put that out there in case anyone wants to dig up my stuff and be like, wow, this guy's an idiot. Like, those aren't my real perspectives generally. I just had like one do pretty well recently about like, it was called like, fuck you, I'm gonna title the Goose Game. And like, I don't think House is lazy. I think they made a great game. I do think Bernie Sanders has a sword, and I do think that's great. That's the only one where I'm not like playing a character. I really like internet character pieces that are just like loud and like like things with an incomprehensible point of view, but are like loud about it.
Yeah, that kind of humor is really great.
Yeah, my one regret is like not getting on a like Clickhole back in the day, because I love all their pieces that are just like not like dangerously insane point of view, but just like a screaming madman. Like that's kind of their editorial voice, and I've always just really loved that.
Yeah, I got into Clickhole like a few years ago, and I am so glad I did, because they are just like Onion. The Onion is kind of based a little bit more in reality, but Clickhole is just like absolutely ridiculous.
It's wild, and they've been able to make it work for so long. It's crazy. That site is crazy, especially because the thing that they are parodying like doesn't even really exist anymore. Like, I don't remember the last time I saw an Upworthy article. Like, they have this whole format that is now basically just only exists in parody, and they're still so good at it. They're still great. I mean, that whole Onion Inc. like situation. I mean, I don't pretend to be an expert on it, but like, I think they're having some like trouble keeping a full staff just with like finances. Not to be too much of a downer, it's really hard to make, like, it gets harder every year to make money as a website with just like jokes on it.
Yeah, because people don't click on the goddamn headlines.
People don't click on it, and like it's basically up to the different like social media companies, like whether or not things get seen. Facebook has made it harder to get people off of Facebook to like click the article because they're not on Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, like and that's like, I mean, that's part of like why I started pivoting to video games in the first place, was like seeing like all my friends like lose their jobs like in 2016.
Yeah.
And realizing like that like internet gold rush is like fallen away. Like crack.com, one of my favorite websites, like people like managed to go for so long just supporting themselves on like articles, and then like social media like making that like much harder for them. They're laying off their whole staff, Funny or Die laying off like everyone.
So how did you get into game development?
Yeah, that's I've been like toying with it pretty much my whole life. I think that's true of a lot of people, though. You download like Game Maker in like 2003.
Yeah.
And you make like a little ship fly around, and you're like, I did it. And then that doesn't go anywhere. And I used to download like a different game making tool every year. I never made anything of any consequence. Then I ended up going to college, like majoring in computer science, learning to program like properly. And it's always been, I think like what really drove me to get it serious about it like a year and a half ago was like thinking about the advice I'd give myself if I wanted to like be a professional like creative person, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is like I'm funny, I love video games, and like I know how to program, and like it seems like there might be something there, because there's a lot of people who want to like make video games, but they kind of have to start from zero, whereas I already like understand. I mean, game programming is very different than the programming I was doing, but like understanding the basic tools. So I was like, all right, I've always kind of wanted to do this video game thing. Let's like learn stuff. So I ended up signing up for a class through this organization called Playcrafting, and it was like a 8-week Unity course, like the Unity game engine.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what really kicked this all off through that course, I met like my business partner, one of my business partners, and like I learned, how to actually make a game. Had projects up in the air after that, and yeah, it's been a crazy ride in the last year, just basically because I took that class and started really putting time into like learning this new skill.
Yeah, because you went from working at Google to comedy to like writing articles and stuff like that to game development, right?
Yeah, I mean, I always had like a tech job until now, in addition to the comedy thing. Because it's so hard to pay the bills with just comedy writing.
Yeah.
Which some people don't realize, which is crazy. I used to joke, and I'm not saying this is like a good joke. It's really just a lie, but like I thought it was so exact. I used to say on Facebook, like, I love that I make $1 million writing satire for the internet every year. Just like dumb shit like that. And I had to stop doing that because I found out people believed it. People back home would be like, wow, that's so amazing, you're such a successful like writer. And I'm like, what are you like?
Oh yeah,
money works in the internet.
People who aren't like connected to like that world.
Yeah, people would literally be like, oh, like this article got like, wow, it got like 40,000 shares or whatever. It's like, you must make a lot of money from every share. It's like, no, it's just a few bits flying down a cable. It's not worth anything.
Every share is $100.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
How did Dodo Peak come about?
Right. So my friend Patrick, who I met in that Unity class I was talking about earlier, he's like a 3D technical artist. He's been freelance basically his whole adult life, and he was working on this like game with his friend James called Dodo Peak, which was it's like a project they've been working on part-time for basically 2 years. It's had a lot of different evolutions. It was originally supposed to be like an AR title, like an AR phone game, and basically just turned into like a more typical arcade platformer. It's basically like Qbert meets Snake.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my first thought when I saw it. It reminded me of Qbert.
And that part I love.
Yeah.
Because I've been like obsessed with Qbert at various points in my life.
It's very underappreciated.
It's a really cool game. I never got great at it. I understand that like there's like the skill ceiling is apparently very low, that like once you get good at it, like you can just play it forever. And so all the Qbert high score competitions are literally just like who can play the longest without going to the bathroom. But anyway, so they were working on that. They were shopping it around with publishers and eventually like landed I don't want to say miraculously because I think the game is great and I think it's like a great mobile title. They ended up like talking to Apple about it for their new like arcade service. The reason I consider it miraculous is because they like submitted the game through like a web form. Just like, oh, if you think you might have a good arcade game, just like fill out this form and send it to us. And like in real life, like nothing ever happens when you fill out a form like that usually, but it ended up being like a life-changing thing.
Yeah, that sounds like miraculous.
Yeah, like, but even when they were in talks, like my friend, like Patrick, he pulled me aside and was like, hey, like, would you be interested if this went through, like, becoming like a full-time game developer and like helping us finish this project? And I remember thinking like, I mean, obviously, yeah. And going away from the meeting like, but that's not gonna happen. Like things like this don't happen. And it crazily did. And I like ended up, I put in my 2 weeks notice. And then like after my last day at Google, I helped set it up in Office. So yeah, I've been working basically as a full-time game developer for the last 3 months. It feels like 3 years at this point. It's been a really crazy ride.
Looking at the game, it kind of reminds me of, did you ever play Captain Toad Treasure Tracker?
Oh, yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that a little bit as well. And yeah, I loved that game, yeah. I'm glad it got on Apple Arcade too, because I feel like that's like the best, currently right now, I feel like it's the best place to like get mobile games for at the moment. Because
Yeah.
it's alongside such really really great games as well.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see like that platform launch, and obviously like I'm super biased, but it is great to be able to play like so many mobile games that don't have all these like free to play hooks.
Yeah.
I definitely, because I have nothing against like playing games on your phone, and I play games on my phone every day, but just it's been so refreshing to see such high quality content. Um, if anyone like is on the fence about trying it out, I say if you have like an Apple device, definitely go for it. Like, obviously you should also download Dodo Peak, but like games like Sayonara Wild Hearts or like the new Choo Choo Rocket, which I've been like obsessed with Choo Choo Rocket for the last 20 years or whatever. So I was like stunned to see that launch. Grindstone, like play those games. It's just like it's like what mobile gaming should be.
Yeah. And looking at Dodo Peak, it looks like I would like. I'm gonna download it right after this, but it looks like I would like sink so many like hours into it actually, because it looks like the gameplay loop of it looks like it would be a ton of fun.
It's really it is like very similar like game to Qbert. So like I wouldn't say the game itself is simple, but it really is. You just like move in 4 directions. Pay attention to your environments. It's like an old school arcade platformer. And, like I'm really proud that like people have made the comparisons that they have.
So after I did the interview, I actually got the chance to play Dodo Peak, and yeah, it's really fun. It's exactly as he described it. It's a lot like Qbert, and luckily there's no bullshit ass mobile game microtransactions and shit like that. So if it does look enjoyable to you, I do wholeheartedly recommend it. Yeah. All right. So it's been really really great talking to you. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm Kyle Earth on basically all social media. I guess the main one being Twitter. So that's KYLEERF. No, I don't know where my last name is from. That is my name. So I'm there. You can check out Hard Drive. Again, just search for Well, it's actually a terrible name for SEO because you'll probably get something from like Dell. But like search for Hard Drive on social media. It's like the #1 spot for video game comedy, and I'm so proud for what the editors have built there. And got some great stuff lined up with them. I've got a podcast coming out with Hard Drive in the next couple of months called Hard Drive Studios. It's me and the editor Kevin Flynn, like making really little dumb video games and like talking about that process. And we're really hopeful that that'll be a cool thing that like no one is really doing yet. Oh yeah, and play Dodo Peak on Apple Arcade.
Yeah, be sure to play that because it looks really really fun.
Yeah, we just released on Mac OS, so it's on basically if you have an Apple device that's with like not older than like 5 or 6 or 7 years, you could definitely check out the service. Please check out Dodo Peak while you're at it.
Yeah. And thank you guys, the viewers, for watching.